For nearly the past 5 years, home builders across California have been racing to keep up with demand, struggling to construct new houses fast enough to satisfy eager buyers. Massive master-planned communities continued popping up throughout the Inland Empire, the Central Valley, and even the high desert regions, while buyers rushed in so quickly that many homes received offers before the paint on the walls had even dried. That part of the story is absolutely real. But there is another side to the situation that is now beginning to unfold. In several California cities, entire rows of newly built homes are sitting unsold for months at a time. Builders are becoming more aggressive with incentives, offering bigger discounts and extra perks in hopes of attracting buyers. Meanwhile, parking lots outside once busy model homes have become unusually quiet. Today, we're counting down 10 California cities where brand new homes are starting to sit empty on the market. Lathrop, a city with a population of roughly 30,000 people in San Joaquin County, sits along the Interstate 5 corridor about 60 miles east of the Bay Area. In recent years, the city became the center of one of California's most ambitious large-scale housing developments. But now, that vision is beginning to lose momentum as the supply of newly built homes is starting to outpace the number of willing buyers. Over the last decade, much of Lathrop's identity has revolved around River Islands, an enormous master-planned community constructed across a network of islands surrounded by the San Joaquin Delta. On paper, the concept sounded incredibly appealing. Buyers were offered newly built homes with waterfront access, modern schools, a brand new charter high school, walking trails, parks, lakes, and an overall lifestyle designed to feel far more affordable than the expensive Bay Area housing market. For many commuters working in places like Alameda County or Santa Clara County, River Islands seemed like the perfect escape from crushing seven-figure mortgages. During the pandemic housing boom, the formula worked almost flawlessly. Remote workers flooded into the area, investors quickly followed behind them, and home prices climbed at an aggressive pace. But the situation has changed dramatically. The same economic reality that once fueled the boom is now turning against the development. Remote work flexibility has steadily faded, and many Bay Area employers have begun requiring workers to return to the office 2, 3, or even 4 days each week. Suddenly, the idea of leaving Lathrop before sunrise for a long commute into San Jose no longer feels practical for many homeowners. As a result, builders throughout River Islands and nearby Lathrop developments are now dealing with a growing number of completed homes that remain unsold. Many of these properties simply cannot move at the prices builders were confidently asking just a year and a half ago. To attract buyers, incentives have expanded rapidly across the community. Builders are now offering mortgage rate buydowns, credits toward closing costs, complimentary upgrade packages, and in many cases direct price cuts ranging from $20,000 to as much as $50,000 on brand new homes. The atmosphere inside the developments has changed noticeably. Model homes that once had crowded parking lots and long weekend lines are now often quiet, with agents waiting hours for a single walk-in visitor. Entire cul-de-sacs filled with completed houses now display for sale signs in nearly every driveway. The schools are still modern. The lakes, parks, and trails are all still there. The homes themselves remain attractive and well-built. But despite all of that, a growing number of these properties are sitting empty, waiting for buyers that current prices are no longer bringing in. Menifee is a Riverside County city with a population of around 110,000 residents, located in the Inland Empire roughly 20 miles south of Riverside and about an hour and a half east of Los Angeles when traffic is manageable. During the pandemic housing boom, Menifee became one of the fastest-growing new construction markets in California. Now, it is also becoming one of the places where large amounts of unsold inventory are beginning to pile up. In the late 2000s, major national home builders aggressively expanded into the city. Massive master-planned communities like Audie Murphy Ranch, Sundance, Cimarron, and several others transformed Menifee with wave after wave of newly built single-family homes over the course of roughly a decade. The sales pitch remained largely the same across these developments. Buyers were promised modern homes, lower prices compared to much of Southern California, family-friendly amenities, new schools, and a location that still felt within commuting distance of Los Angeles for people chasing better affordability. When the pandemic housing frenzy arrived, demand exploded. Remote workers, investors, and speculative buyers flooded into the market, pushing home prices far beyond traditional historical levels. For a while, it looked like the expansion would continue indefinitely. But the situation on the ground looks very different now. Across Menifee, builders are sitting on completed homes that have remained unsold for months. Incentive packages have steadily become more aggressive as companies try to keep sales moving. Mortgage rate buydowns into the 5% range have become increasingly common. Buyers are also being offered closing cost credits worth $10,000 to $15,000, along with free landscaping packages, complimentary appliances, and direct price reductions that would have been almost unthinkable during the peak of the boom. The communities themselves still look impressive. The model homes remain open and fully staffed. Streets are clean, parks are maintained, and the developments continue to market the lifestyle buyers were originally promised. But the traffic coming through those sales offices has slowed considerably. What builders projected when they broke ground 18 months ago no longer matches the pace of today's market. The number of completed but unsold homes continues to grow faster than buyers are purchasing them. On top of that, rising insurance costs throughout Riverside County are adding even more financial pressure for potential homeowners. Property taxes are also becoming difficult for many buyers to ignore. On a $500,000 home in Menifee, annual property tax bills can approach $7,000 a year, creating a much larger monthly expense than many people initially expected. Technically, the new construction boom in Menifee is still ongoing. Homes are still being built, and developments are still expanding. But there is one increasingly obvious sign that the market has cooled. The for sale signs are staying in front of homes far longer than builders would like to admit. And if you've watched this far without subscribing yet, I have to respect the commitment to resisting the button. But you might as well hit it now, because the next 8 cities include a failed tech commuter gamble, a master-planned community that never fully came together, and a high-desert development where half-finished streets suddenly went silent. From here, the story only gets emptier. Manteca is a city of roughly 90,000 residents located in San Joaquin County in California's northern Central Valley, positioned along Highway 99, about 75 miles east of the Bay Area. Over the last several years, Manteca became one of the clearest examples of what happens when the dream of affordable new construction collides with the harsh reality of a long Bay Area commute. And lately, that dream has been losing momentum fast. For nearly a decade, Manteca ranked among the state's busiest new home construction markets. Major developers expanded aggressively throughout the area. Del Webb introduced a massive 55-plus active adult community, while builders like KB Home, Lennar, and several regional companies continued pushing new subdivisions farther across the outskirts of the city. Entire neighborhoods of freshly built single-family homes seemed to spread in every direction. The message to buyers was straightforward and extremely effective at the time. People could purchase brand-new homes at prices dramatically lower than what similar properties would cost in Alameda County, Santa Clara County, or Seattle area markets. The idea was simple: commute to the Bay Area for work, save a substantial amount on housing, and enjoy the extra space and quieter lifestyle that the Central Valley offered. During the pandemic housing boom, that strategy worked better than almost anyone expected. Remote workers poured into the market, demand surged, and home prices climbed rapidly as buyers rushed to lock in properties before costs increased even more. But conditions changed quickly. Remote work policies became stricter. Mortgage rates surged higher. And many Bay Area employees suddenly found themselves reconsidering whether a 1-hour and 45-minute drive in real morning traffic, leaving home at 5 in the morning several days a week, was actually sustainable long-term. Now, builders across Manteca are dealing with growing inventories of completed homes that are not selling at the pace they once projected. Incentives have become far more aggressive throughout multiple developments in the area. Mortgage rate buydowns into the 5% range are now common. Builders are also offering free upgrade packages, closing cost credits worth up to $15,000, and direct price reductions ranging from $20,000 to $40,000 in an effort to attract hesitant buyers. Even the large 55-plus communities, which once saw strong demand, are moving homes more slowly than at any point in the past decade. Sales are still happening, but negotiations are taking longer, and buyers now have far more leverage than they did during the height of the market frenzy. At the same time, rising insurance premiums across San Joaquin County are creating additional financial pressure. Property taxes are also becoming a major factor for many households. On a $500,000 home in Manteca, annual property tax bills can approach $7,000 per year, adding a significant monthly burden on top of already elevated mortgage costs. Manteca's housing expansion was built heavily around the assumption that Bay Area commuting would remain attractive and manageable. But for many buyers, that commute is no longer the lifestyle they originally agreed to. The neighborhoods are still there. The homes are still standing. But a growing number of them are waiting for buyers who are no longer arriving at the same pace. Fontana is a city of around 220,000 residents located in San Bernardino County in the western part of the Inland Empire, roughly 50 miles east of downtown Los Angeles along Interstate 10. For years, the city represented one of the main escape routes for Southern California buyers searching for newer homes at prices that still felt somewhat attainable. But now, the affordability story that fueled Fontana's construction boom is beginning to run into serious limits. Over the last decade, Fontana became one of the go-to destinations for buyers who had been priced out of places closer to Los Angeles, including Orange County and the San Gabriel Valley. Large national builders moved aggressively into the area, launching major residential developments across both the northern and southern parts of the city. These master-planned communities offered exactly what many families were looking for: newly built homes, modern elementary schools, parks, walking paths, community pools, and neighborhoods that still carried the feeling of fresh construction. Most importantly, prices remained far lower than comparable homes located closer to central Los Angeles. When the pandemic housing frenzy began, demand exploded almost overnight. Prices surged rapidly, investors jumped into the market, and competition intensified throughout the region. But eventually, the financial equation behind the Los Angeles commuter lifestyle started falling apart. Mortgage rates climbed sharply. Insurance costs throughout San Bernardino County increased. Fuel prices remained painfully high. At the same time, more employers across Southern California began enforcing return-to-office policies, forcing many workers back onto crowded freeways several days a week. For many homeowners, the daily drive from Fontana into downtown Los Angeles or Orange County suddenly became far more exhausting and expensive than they originally expected. Now, builders throughout Fontana are sitting on growing amounts of completed inventory across several newer developments. To keep homes moving, incentive packages have become increasingly aggressive. Mortgage rate buydowns into the low 5% range are now common. Builders are also offering closing cost credits between $10,000 and $15,000. Free upgrade packages, complimentary landscaping, and direct price reductions exceeding $30,000 on some newly built homes. The model homes are still fully staffed, and the neighborhoods themselves continue to look polished and brand new. Streets are clean, parks are maintained, and construction crews are still active in certain sections. But the flow of buyers coming through these communities has slowed noticeably, while unsold inventory continues to sit on the market longer than expected. The reality is that Fontana was heavily priced around the assumption that large numbers of commuters would continue accepting the daily Los Angeles drive indefinitely. Today, that commuter buyer still exists, just not in the same numbers as before. The homes are still listed, the developments are still open, and builders continue adjusting prices and incentives in an effort to bring buyers back into the market. Quick side note, there's now a coffee mug in the merch store designed to look exactly like a California gas station receipt. It's available at shop.inscali.com. The mug is meant to be funny. The Los Angeles commute, on the other hand, definitely is not. One belongs in your kitchen cabinet. The other belongs in a part of your life you would rather not relive. Tracy is a city of approximately 95,000 residents in San Joaquin County, positioned near the junction of Interstate 5 and Interstate 205, about 60 miles east of the Bay Area. Over the years, Tracy built much of its growth strategy around one specific idea: attracting Bay Area tech workers searching for more affordable housing. Now, the city is dealing with the growing inventory left behind after that strategy began to unravel. For nearly 2 decades, Tracy marketed itself as a practical alternative for Silicon Valley commuters who could no longer afford housing prices closer to the Bay Area. New subdivisions spread rapidly across the city as national builders developed large master-planned communities targeted toward young families looking for modern homes, more space, and a lower cost of living. The trade-off, of course, was the commute. Buyers were expected to accept a daily drive that could easily stretch to 90 minutes each way into Silicon Valley. For a long time, many people were willing to make that sacrifice in exchange for owning a newer and larger home. Then, the pandemic changed everything. Suddenly, remote work removed the commute almost entirely. Buyers could purchase brand new homes in Tracy, work comfortably from home, and save enormous amounts of money compared to Bay Area housing costs. Demand exploded almost overnight. Prices surged faster than in nearly any other Central Valley market. Investors rushed in, and builders accelerated construction across the city. But the environment shifted once again when remote work flexibility began disappearing. Major Bay Area employers started tightening return-to-office requirements, forcing employees back into the office multiple days each week. And just like that, the brutal commute that many buyers thought they had escaped became part of daily life again. For many households, the math no longer made sense. Now, builders throughout Tracy are sitting on growing numbers of completed homes across several major developments. Incentives have steadily expanded as companies try to move inventory that is lingering on the market far longer than expected. Mortgage rate buydowns have become increasingly common. Builders are also offering closing cost credits ranging from $10,000 to $15,000, free upgrade packages, and substantial direct price reductions on newly built homes throughout the city. The neighborhoods themselves still appear attractive and modern. The schools remain new, the communities are clean and well-maintained, and the homes continue to offer the space that originally drew buyers into the area. But the pool of buyers willing to pay peak pandemic pricing has largely disappeared. At the same time, rising insurance costs throughout San Joaquin County are creating even more pressure for potential homeowners. Property taxes are also becoming difficult to ignore. On a $600,000 home in Tracy, annual property taxes can approach $8,000 a year, adding a significant financial burden to an already expensive ownership equation. In many ways, Tracy's entire new construction market was built around the assumption that large numbers of people would continue tolerating the Bay Area commute indefinitely. Today, far fewer buyers are willing to make that commitment. And the result is becoming increasingly visible in the growing number of homes still sitting on the market. Beaumont is a city of roughly 55,000 residents located in Riverside County in the Inland Empire, about 25 miles east of Riverside near the Banning Pass. And Beaumont is another place where California's massive housing expansion is beginning to slow in very visible ways. Beaumont is where the Inland Empire housing boom collided headfirst with California's growing insurance crisis. And that combination is now leaving entire sections of new developments with homes sitting empty. Over the last 15 years, Beaumont experienced an enormous wave of residential construction. Large master-planned communities like Sundance, Oak Valley, Fairway Canyon, and several others transformed major portions of the city with rows of newly built single-family homes offered at prices that once looked extremely attractive by Southern California standards. The formula was familiar and highly effective for years. Buyers were promised modern construction, comparatively affordable pricing, new schools, upgraded community amenities, and easy highway access for commuters willing to drive west toward larger job markets. During the pandemic housing surge, demand accelerated rapidly. Remote workers moved into the area in large numbers, investors followed behind them, and home values climbed at a pace that few people expected. But now, multiple financial pressures are beginning to hit the market at the same time. One of the biggest issues has become insurance. Wildfire concerns in the hills surrounding Beaumont have pushed many insurance carriers to either sharply raise premiums or stop offering coverage in certain areas altogether. Some homeowners have been forced onto the California FAIR Plan, which often costs significantly more while providing less comprehensive coverage. For many buyers, the financial reality becomes much less attractive once they start adding everything together. A mortgage payment alone may initially seem manageable, but after factoring in homeowners insurance, HOA fees inside newer communities, and rising property taxes, the true monthly cost becomes far higher than the listing price originally suggests. Builders throughout Beaumont are now dealing with growing inventories of completed homes, and incentive packages continue expanding month after month in an effort to attract buyers. Mortgage rate buydowns have become common. Closing cost credits, free upgrades, and substantial direct price reductions on newly built homes are now standard negotiation tools across many developments. At the same time, Riverside County property taxes combined with mellow roof assessments inside newer communities can add several $1,000s per year to the total cost of ownership, creating even more pressure for buyers already stretched by higher mortgage rates and insurance bills. The homes themselves remain attractive. The neighborhoods still look polished and modern, and the incentives builders are offering have become increasingly generous. But behind the scenes, insurance costs have quietly turned into one of the main reasons many of these completed homes are struggling to sell. 5 cities down, 5 still to go. And if you still have not subscribed yet, I'm not offended. I'm simply observing the numbers. Because from here, the next 5 cities become even emptier, stranger, and in some cases noticeably more abandoned. You definitely do not want to miss what comes next. Mountain House is a planned community of around 25,000 residents in San Joaquin County, located along Interstate 5 between Tracy and Lathrop. It stands out from the rest of the cities on this list because it isn't just a typical suburb that expanded over time. It is a fully master-planned town that was designed and built from the ground up, with construction progress that has now noticeably slowed in the middle of its long-term vision. The community was originally established in 1994 as one of the first large-scale master-plan developments approved in California since the 1970s. The long-term blueprint called for roughly 16,000 homes, along with a complete town structure that included commercial centers, multiple schools, parks, a central town square, and all essential infrastructure developed in carefully staged phases over several decades. For many years, that plan moved forward steadily. Homes were sold, new neighborhoods were released in phases, and the population continued to grow at a consistent pace. Mountain House gradually became a popular overflow option for Bay Area buyers looking for brand new housing at Central Valley prices, while still staying within commuting distance of major job centers. During the pandemic housing surge, demand accelerated sharply. Developers expanded new phases more aggressively in an attempt to capitalize on the sudden spike in buyer activity. Then everything began to shift. As remote work policies tightened among major Bay Area employers, the steady commuter-driven demand that supported Mountain House started to weaken. At the same time, interest rates rose significantly, and insurance costs across San Joaquin County also increased, adding more pressure to monthly housing expenses. The newer phases of construction, especially those launched when prices were at their peak and borrowing costs were at their lowest, ended up hitting the market right as demand began to cool. Today, builders in Mountain House are sitting on completed homes across multiple sections of the community that are taking longer to sell than expected. To respond, incentive packages have expanded significantly. Mortgage rate buydowns, closing cost credits, free upgrade options, and direct price reductions ranging from $20,000 to $50,000 on new construction have become common across various developments. The broader community plan is still in motion. Schools continue to open, infrastructure is still being developed, and the commercial areas are still gradually expanding. But a noticeable portion of residential inventory is now sitting unsold, and the original vision for the community is unfolding on a much slower timeline than was anticipated just a few years ago. Lake Elsinore is a city of about 75,000 residents in Riverside County, located roughly 35 miles southeast of Riverside along the Interstate 15 corridor. It is one of the clearest examples in the Inland Empire where the housing boom collided directly with rising wildfire risk and California's insurance crisis. And that overlap is now leaving several new developments with homes sitting vacant because coverage has become too expensive or difficult to secure. Over the past 15 years, Lake Elsinore has expanded significantly. Large master-planned communities such as Canyon Hills, Tuscany Hills, and Summerley transformed the hillsides and surrounding flats near the lake into dense neighborhoods of newly built single-family homes. National home builders rolled out development phase after development phase, steadily reshaping the area into a modern suburban extension of Southern California. The marketing message was consistent with other Inland Empire growth areas. Buyers were offered brand new homes at relatively affordable Southern California price points, along with new schools, community amenities, parks, and convenient freeway access for commuting. During the pandemic housing surge, demand accelerated sharply. Prices rose quickly, investors entered the market, and remote workers were drawn to hillside properties with lake views and larger homes. For a time, it looked like the expansion would continue without interruption. Then the insurance landscape shifted. Lake Elsinore is located in a hillside wildfire-prone corridor, and the surrounding vegetation has increasingly been classified as high risk by insurance carriers in California. As a result, many major insurers either reduced coverage in the area or pulled out entirely, while others dramatically increased premiums. In many cases, homeowners have had no choice but to turn to the California Fair Plan, which often comes with significantly higher costs and more limited coverage compared to standard insurance policies. When buyers calculate the full monthly cost of ownership, mortgage payment, insurance, HOA fees, and additional community costs, many discover that the real expense is hundreds of dollars higher per month than the listing price initially suggests. Builders in Lake Elsinore are now left holding completed homes across multiple developments, and incentive packages have become increasingly aggressive as a result. Mortgage rate buydowns, closing cost credits, free upgrade options, and direct price reductions are now standard across much of the new construction market in the area. The communities themselves still look exactly as advertised. The lake remains, the views are still scenic, and the neighborhoods are well designed. But behind the visuals, insurance costs have quietly become one of the biggest factors keeping a meaningful share of these completed homes from selling. Number 1 on this list is Victorville and Apple Valley, two high desert cities in San Bernardino County located along Interstate 15, roughly 90 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles, just beyond the Cajon Pass. This corridor has become the clearest example of where California's new home speculation boom reached its peak intensity, and also where the most visibly empty housing inventory in the state is now concentrated. During the pandemic, the high desert turned into a magnet for investors and speculative buyers. Major national builders such as D.R. Horton, KB Home, Lennar, and Richmond American expanded heavily into the region, developing thousands of new housing lots. Prices initially looked extremely attractive compared to almost anything within a reasonable driving distance of Los Angeles. The sales pitch was straightforward and compelling. Buyers were offered brand new homes in the $200,000 to low $300,000 range, along with new schools, expanding commercial areas, and the idea of a long but manageable commute into Los Angeles via the Cajon Pass, at least in theory, for those willing to leave as early as 4 a.m. That narrative attracted a wide mix of buyers all at once: out-of-area investors, house flippers, and relocation buyers who all entered the market during the same surge. Builders responded by accelerating construction and releasing additional phases as quickly as possible. Prices rose rapidly, and then even faster. But eventually, the demand that was supposed to absorb all of this new supply simply didn't show up in the volumes builders had anticipated. As remote work policies tightened and interest rates climbed, the affordability equation changed almost overnight. At the same time, insurance costs in San Bernardino County increased sharply due to wildfire exposure across the surrounding high desert landscape. The reality of the commute also became much more difficult than many buyers had expected. What was marketed as a long drive into Los Angeles often turned into a 3 to 4 hour round trip in heavy traffic, and that level of congestion started to feel less like an exception and more like the norm. Today, builders in Victorville and Apple Valley are sitting on finished homes across dozens of subdivisions. Incentive packages have reached levels that would have been hard to imagine just a few years ago. Mortgage rate buydowns into the low 5% range are common. Closing cost credits of $20,000 or more are being offered. Free solar installations, upgrade packages, and large direct price reductions, often $40,000, $50,000, or even $60,000 off original base prices, have become part of standard negotiations in many developments. In some neighborhoods, entire completed blocks of brand new homes remain